see this guy and he's spinning this thing and it's going back and forth and it's on fire, but it's inside the cave down in this like little corner, and like it's a fire circle and everything. I had never really seen these fire circles. I've been to a couple things, but whatever. And like he then is like using this rope dart and it's going back and forth. He's wrapping around himself, and I'm like, whatever that is, I want to do that. I want to do that.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 8 of LongStory Short Podcast, a collection of side hustles, cool jobs, and interesting hobbies from your coffee shop regulars. Today, we have Tyler Ely with us. We're going to learn a little bit more about him and his background story, about his local growing up in the area, his background in the paintball scene, his moving to fire performing and festival performing, and then what he's currently up to, making some CBD salves, some THC salves, baking, things like that. Finding out a little bit more. So stay tuned for this episode of LongStory Short Podcast with Tyler Ely. So I'm sitting here with Tyler Ely, another one of my coffee shop regulars that we've gotten to know each other, I said, pretty well over since opening. I would say you've been here pretty much since the start.
Yes.
But all right. So I know there's so many interesting things. There's fire performing, there's paintball, there's like CBD work, there's other things that I'm sure I'm gonna learn today too. But let's bring it all the way back. Are you starting off, like, are you local to the Belleville area? Did you grow up around here?
Yes. So Frank Scott and Greenmount. I grew up essentially right at that. There used to not be Frank Scott. Greenmount was Schwagel. It used to be a dirt road.
Yeah.
It was super strange. But I mean, that's just what I grew up with. And seeing the boxes that they used to have is, what do you call them, mailboxes. And that was what we had compared to having an individual one at your end of your driveway.
Yeah.
That was no big deal. But then when 64 kind of came through, it really did start changing everything. Like, being able to walk from my house, which is behind State Farm in Shiloh.
Okay.
Like, that's where I grew up. And going from there, walking all the way to the Cine 15 or Cine 10, no, Cine 15.
Yeah.
Down Central Park Way, and like getting in trouble because we weren't supposed to be there, but we lived there. So it was kind of like the cop didn't really know. And so it's been a very interesting watching everything blow up down to the field that now is Deerbergs and all that madness.
Yeah. So did you go to high school around here too then?
Yes.
Belleville East.
Belleville East.
Oh man, so many of us Belleville East people here. But
I went to Whiteside, went to Belleville East, went to Whiteside before there was a primary wing, went to the new Whiteside.
I was at Whiteside too. That was, originally I was the first class that was in the new school that they built over there. Yeah.
So we were laughing. All right. So a long time ago, we talked about how me and a buddy, me and a buddy were talking about how, like, it was super funny that the 8th grade AC system got ripped off, and we're like, we're 7th graders, and we're like, we didn't realize that that's us.
Yeah.
And like then we got there and it was like, oh hey, and it was just like, oh yeah, I guess we're kind of, oh man, 8th grade, because that's where I spent my 8th grade. My parents were, and so when did you go?
I was, let's see here. So I graduated high school in 2010. What year did you graduate?
7.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we were like, I think like the 5th, 6th graders that were in there, and you were probably the 8th graders that were moving in there, right?
Yes.
It's a brand new school. It was kind of cool to experience that at the same time of like, nobody really knew what was going on. So like you could kind of get away with a lot more stuff because it was like,
yes.
I don't know. This is everyone's first year here. So.
Right. And like, I there was so many different rooms and stuff you could go and find. And like, I've been told, I don't know, what do you call it? Theories that other rooms existed in that place. And we went and checked those halls. I don't really know if there really were. There was supposed to be some like crazy padded room or something. And I was like, what? I don't know about that.
I think that's how the rumors always start though, in like the buildings that nobody has like completely explored yet. Like when you're younger and you go to the school, like all throughout the years, basically you've heard like, oh, this hallway is this classrooms and this hallway is this classrooms. And if you go down that way, that's where the janitors are. And like, you kind of get to know that. But like with a new school, you're just like, okay, well, we don't know what's down there. Like, what could it be? Oh, it's a padded room for the bad kids. Like,
yeah. And it's just going to be rumors and like theory and totally. Almost mythology. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you, when you were younger, then did you start playing like paintball and everything like that? Did you have different hobbies other than that? Were you a
I did.
skateboarder?
Oh.
You'd seem like you'd be no.
No, I cannot skateboard. I've tried.
See, I'm judging a book by its cover right now. You
I
look
mean,
like you could.
I've got the hair. Yeah, I get it. Just missing up
the
here.
beanie. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's a good point too. But no, I tried to do bikes. My brother learned, and then he took off with it. He used to have BMX like dirt jumps in the backyard.
Yeah.
'Cause we lived in essentially like a middle of nowhere. And then it blew up.
Cornfields and everything nearby. You could just build your own dirt ramps.
Yeah, 100%. And like we had this dirt trail or a nature trail that we'd go through, and eventually my brother built all these different jumps to it. Well, my dad, being a teacher for Rankin, was like, "Hey, I've got all this extra wood. We found all of it at work. You brought it all home." And they built this half pipe, so they were able to do a fun box and a half pipe there.
Okay.
And like that started his whole thing. I can mountain bike and ride my bike or whatever. That's mainly for my wife. But being able to do anything like that, no. I got into hacky sack, got into soccer. I tried baseball. It was terrible.
Yeah.
Same with basketball and such. But like soccer, I did a whole bunch of soccer, and we were still terrible.
Did you play in like high school and stuff too, or was
No.
it just kind of like you pick me up games of soccer kind of?
No. It was what do you call it? Like a Century 21 league kind of thing.
Yeah.
The soccer field out on the corner between here and Millstadt off 158.
Yeah. Now I'm blanking on what they call those
I almost
things.
said
There's a name
Corey
for
League,
them,
but that's not the right one.
Yeah, there's a league of some sort that they call them that I know, like Fire and Ice is part of it and things like that. But yeah, so you were playing Select. Is that what it's called, right?
Yeah, I think. Yeah. I think
when you're not in high school and you're playing it separately, it's like Select.
No, I didn't go to high. I tried out for 8th grade. Wow. Yeah, 8th grade soccer, and I wasn't good enough because I wasn't very athletic and everything, even though I was from a halfback for a long time.
Yeah.
We never really did great.
Different kind of athleticism, right?
Yes. And so like eventually got to a point where I picked up a paintball marker, and like 'cause I saw it and other buddies in high school were talking about it, and I was like, okay, all right, we're sitting around study hall looking at it and being like, oh my man, these are super cool. And so I joked about it. My parents got me one. It was a Tippmann 98 custom silver with a black barrel. We put goggles on. And whoever had
thank God, right? Like
yes, and whoever had the paintball marker didn't have goggles, but whoever was possibly running in this field at the moment, running all the way to go get shot. That was like our first experience of getting shot by paintball marker.
So wait, that was like the whole thing of like one of us has a gun, everybody else just scramble, and I'm going to try.
No, one person just goes a distance and runs around while we shoot the random paintballs that we had at them.
Okay.
And like we originally figured out that was probably not the best idea. So we eventually got both masks, got 2 of them. We didn't get another paintball marker though. Yeah. And then I had another buddy that picked it up and was like, hey, we're going to go play on this day. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll go try and play. I realized I did no coordination. I didn't know about shooting anything. So go and shoot my buddy in a cornfield. There's no real experience to it.
Funny thing on my end, I owned a paintball gun. I've never used a paintball gun. I think I got it in a barter or something somehow in like high school. I don't remember what it was. Like, you high school kids, you're trading like weird things. And I remember having like a bright blue paintball gun and everything, but like never using it, never knowing how to use it, anything like that. It's just sat at my house for some reason. And I was like, oh, one day I'm going to figure this out. I think I was like too scared to get shot by a paintball. I'm like, everyone wants to do the shooting. No one wants to get shot. Like,
quite, yes. Yeah.
And so like, I was like, I don't think I ever actually picked it up, but like, I mean, how do you like get in? You said you guys it was just like, started off with one gun and then a few of you guys got some. Like, was it just like the group that you were hanging out with in high school, or
so
like...
the original people I was shooting people, I guess, eventually changed. And then I had 2 buddies that were talking about it, and we're looking through Action Pursuit games, and there's another one. There paintball magazines. Mm-hmm. We're looking through them, and we're looking at all the different cool stuff, what they're doing. The as what you see on like television or on YouTube and such, where it's like everyone's shooting those crazy paintball markers. They're all snapping at the air bunkers and stuff. And like, we were super hyped about it. Well, when we're looking at them, and we were kids in high school, we didn't really have money. But when you go about trading, so like when guns are traded, paintball markers, and super people are excited about this one or that one.
Yeah.
What was it? 2 people have ended up trading multiple guns for just one gun. And like that whole idea of being like, oh, I got this. Buddy of mine named Vocal ended up getting this, what do you call it? A carnivore, this really, really fancy WGP autococker. Okay. And it was something that everyone was sought after. It was super cool. It shot a lot, shot very fast. And it eventually had a point where we were at Wacky Warriors playing because I had my Tippmann. I had just got another paintball marker, and I didn't know how to figure it out. It was in pieces. I got it for like a kind of a trade. I traded pants, and I got gloves, and instead of trading for the mask, I was like, well, here, I'll take that paintball marker instead. He's like, get some pieces, here you go. And like, I had to go and learn that. It didn't have all the pieces, but that's another fun story of trying to put one together. But after going to do that, we're sitting around and he's like, well, let's just go try and shoot it. And he goes and shoots his carnivore, and it literally pulls the trigger, and the gun shakes so much that it continues to shoot. So you could hold it and it would start shooting. So it was like, okay, got to take it completely apart, because we didn't know anything back then. We were just kind of like, oh, it's a paintball marker. Yeah. And there weren't gun techs out there. There weren't people that were posting stuff on YouTube and such. It was a guy you had to hire from the company to give you advice about what you're working on.
Yeah. Or I'm assuming paying somebody at an actual shop or something to like take the thing apart. And if you're in high school and you're getting your stuff by trading it with people because I don't have very much money, I'm assuming you're just like, well, we got to figure out how to fix this thing on our own.
Yes. Yeah. And there was only one guy, and that was Joe. And like, he would work on paintball markers, but back then parts were not cheap. You had to make stuff because stuff that you couldn't get.
There's no Amazon. You can't just overnight something or like even, any of the other websites too. I mean, you're talking back in what, early 2000s?
04, 05, something like that.
Yeah. So before like the internet, it was so easy to just be like you said, you can type in Google, find a Reddit page or a thread or something and say, oh, this guy had the same problem. He ordered this part. It showed up in 2 days. And here's a video on how to take this thing apart, replace it, and put it all back together.
Completely. And there was none of that. No. It's like the whole car mechanic thing. Like, there's so much more out there now than there ever has.
Yeah.
Because like, otherwise, you're looking at parts. I mean, there are paintball markers at the place I work that are literally pieces of other things fixed together to make a paintball marker, because they figured out certain stuff that would work. People didn't make stuff back then. So there's barrel attachments and stuff that are like built that I've never seen, that don't have threads, that are checkable. And it's mind boggling seeing. It's like, okay, where did they come up with this? How did they come up with this? And then someone was like, I think I can figure out what this, like, there's literally a paintball marker at Extreme that has a nail that was filed down, and because it's this perfect diameter, it's what it is, and it's that little pin. It shoots faster, which makes no sense, and it boggles me. And it's just like,
somebody figured this out, probably from a lot of YouTube and Reddit videos or something.
Right? Yes, trying to figure out what actually is going to work, what isn't going to work, and then blowing things up in process.
So then you played paintball through, I mean, I guess till now still, right? Like you're still in it, or
so I took a break. I left in 2008. I originally was sponsored by Extreme. Sal got us gear and stuff.
So what does like being sponsored mean? Like, is it like...
So we had our names on our jerseys, we had gear from the actual field, and it was all one set of gear. Like, we were all, black and blue.
And then
we were a team.
Sign up for like tournaments, or like, are they just like, are they like one shot things? Are they like multi-round tournaments? Like, how does it work?
It's like 4 or 5 hours. They call it round robin sometimes. Sometimes it's just like a bracket system. And other times you literally fight every team to see who's really going to be good or bad. And other times it's like, we'd show up, we'd have a team, we'd play on Saturday or play on Sunday, but then you'd work on Saturday or work on Sunday, whatever it would work, because then that would be able to trade for your paint and everything. Because paint was super expensive back in the day. It was somewhere like $70, $80 a case.
Like, if you're sponsored, do they like provide you with that?
Yes. Yeah. We got discounts. So it was super nice. And like professional people, or like I would say Division 5 and above, usually get paint discounts and stuff, where it's just all of a sudden you get a pallet of paint for your team, and it's a third of the price of what you would pay per case.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're helping them and you get that paint deal, and it's nice. Most of the time, we never had that. But we didn't play many tournaments. We played, I think, 2. And like, it was fun. It was crazy. We played a lot of different styles of paintball, because you see paintball now compared to paintball back in the 2000s to 90s. People did different things. It was, a CO2 tank, like cartridge.
Yeah.
People used to fake gas, so it sounded like you were out and you were changing, and that person would run and try and bunker you. And that apparently was straight up, or the guy would do it real quick and make sure it sounded like he was out.
Yeah.
Then go and then shoot him as he was coming through. And like, playing mind games like that doesn't really exist anymore. But
no, it's a lot more like straightforward of like,
shooting, gunning, playing tactics, trying to bait your opponent to look out a certain way while you're going around the other way or something like that. And now there's a team that plays at Extreme that still does goofy stuff like that.
Now here's my question. Do you think, does any of that have to do like from video games over the years of like, do you think that people playing a lot of these like first person shooter games has changed the way that like paintballers think on the field now? Like, is there like I've been playing Call of Duty for 11 years growing up, and now I'm on paintball, and like I think that because I've done this in Call of Duty, I think it's gonna work whenever I'm on the paintball field.
Normally I would say no, but I've seen this. Yes. Yeah. I 100% think that there's people that have taken stuff from that because like on turf, you can slide really far.
Yeah.
In other spots, there's heavy grass, so you can move. And I've watched multiple people slide and get away with stuff that shouldn't work. That is not paintball theory in any manner.
Yeah.
And yet they got away with it and they're in their bunker and they're perfectly fine. They're looking, checking themselves, no shots. And I'm like, that doesn't work. How did you just do this? And I'm like, yeah.
I did it on Fortnite.
Yes. Or Call of Duty, the slide thing where where you slide and then you jump up or like that.
Yeah.
And like, dude literally slid and then jumped and like Superman slid into a bunker and got behind it. And the one guy standing next to me is like, that's not supposed to work.
Yeah.
Why did that work?
Yeah.
Like, you can't do that. And I was like, I'll humor it.
Yeah.
Same as like the sneaking around kind of thing. All right. I have a guy that's, I would consider him to be like a Naruto character where he's just super sneaky. He literally gets in the shadow of like a bunker and is when you look and you check him again, he's already another bunker closer to you and he's looking out the other direction with a paintball gun staring at you. Like multiple times I've played him and he's gotten me and it's just blown my mind how fast he is. Well, I watched him do it to a person not last week, 2 weekends ago. And he literally snuck between the bunkers to where this kid looked out, saw him, brought himself on the other side. So like a bunker about this big and he was already in front of him going and sliding on the right side of him to shoot him. And like, it was within 10 feet and he just goes, bang, you're dead. But like, it was that moment of being like, this is a video game. This is ridiculous. I don't understand why this is totally
a ninja in real life.
Yes. And like, when he snuck up on me, I couldn't believe him. He just touches me and he just goes, you're dead. And I was just like, he was.
So is that like, is there ones where like you don't even have to shoot them, like where you just kind of?
So like sometimes when you're playing, I would consider like an advanced game. Like if I'm playing someone that I know that can play, I'm not worried about getting shot too close or whatever because A, I'm a ref. B, it's just how that goes. And like the way sometimes you do is if you can touch the opposing team's bunker, like a one-on-one, if I can go and touch your bunker and knock on your bunker, you're dead. Because that means I got to you without you realizing, and no one really likes that. But I've had people also come up to me and they come behind me in a big game or in a normal game and go and hey, they breached the 10-foot rule and they're like, hey, you're dead. And like, I'm a ref, but I'm totally fine with you doing that. I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah.
It's like I knew that he got behind me and I heard steps, but I didn't think that there was really a guy at my base. And like I look and he's just like, hey, you're dead. And I'm like, thank you. I'm leaving.
Oh, jeez. Okay. Yeah, you're right there.
And there's lots of spots where it gets really sketchy like that, where it's like you turn a corner and someone's right there. And I get it. It's hard to be like, oh,
is it one where like you ever have it like where you both spook each other, where like you both go around the corner at the same time and you're just like, oh gosh, like there's a face right in front of my face and we both didn't expect it. Like,
Shipyard is notorious for it because there's a shipping container. So you can hear people's feet walking through. But then there's points where you don't hear anything. And one guy has figured out if you slide your feet across, you don't necessarily make a lot of noise. And I'm like, okay, but you can still hear him above. Well, he's down below and he got like gun to gun with somebody. Little kid turned, looked in, and he was looking out and they were just like, ooh. And they both didn't shoot each other. And I was just like, run away from each other. And they did. And I was just like, yes. Because usually someone in those moments gets shot really close. And like getting shot within 10 feet hurts. Getting shot within a foot. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, how much, like, you getting, like, normal match? Are you walking away, like, you got a few welts, things like that? Like, how to, like...
I mean, so if your body's flexed and, like, you're shooting your paintball marker and it hits here, usually it's not going to bruise too much. But, like, if you're standing and you're not paying attention and someone hits you and, like, here and you're not flexed or something, or you're not aware of it, it seems to bruise more. I don't know why. It just hits, and then, because when a paintball hits, it flattens out the blood vessels of it. And so, like, that's what the spray is that the blood vessels can squish it all out.
Yeah.
So you just got to rub it and it'll feel better. But most of the time you'll end up with scars if you get shot too close.
Oh man.
I mean, cause
I mean, in
200 feet per second. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are,
or 280 feet per second, 200 miles an hour. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's not so bad, but yeah.
So you're playing these tournaments. You said, you left in 2007? Eight.
Yeah. I went to Florida and did dumb stuff, and I came back from Florida, and then I kind of started picking up this whole thing again. And it was like, I want to go out and hang out with my buddies. I had friends here a long time ago, and I kind of had dropped them because I was doing dumb stuff and trying to figure out my own life. And then I came back and figured out what I should have been doing. Still no. Yeah. But then I got into the party rave scene, and I went to a show, and it was the world's largest paint party. at Grizzly Stadium. And a buddy of mine was talking about it, and it was
Like,
super cool.
What is paint party? Like, I mean,
It is where they have like, and this is the
you
craziest
said
thing.
paint? I'm a paint baller. Like, sign me up.
Humor me. It's almost like that, but they have like these giant cannons. They have those pull things where you can spray paint,
Oh,
but it's all like edible paint. It was like the world's largest paint party, day glow.
Okay.
But now it's called Life in Color because
Oh yeah, I know. Okay, I did a 5K by like the Color Run,
Mhm.
and I think it's sponsored by the same people. And it was the same way as like as you're running through, it's like powdered paint, and it's also like liquid paint that they were doing. Like you'd get through a certain part, and like you just get hit with like a sack of like powdered paint, and since you were sweating, like it would just spread on you, kind of deal. But I remember doing that. So like, but I'm guessing instead of 5K miserable running, this was partying
on a baseball field with paint cannons shooting towards you. There being a giant tarp, so you're just sliding around in paint.
Yeah,
it was quite interesting. And after that, it was just like this is insane. And that's when I started getting like a feeling of groove. And that's like whenever me and my buddies started figuring out this whole flow thing. My buddy came to me with poi and was like, "Hey, I this is what my buddy showed me." And I was like, "Oh, I have no idea what that is, but it looks super cool."
Yeah.
And then I got into being a glover, and like that's where you do the whole
oh my god, with the lights on the fingertips.
yeah.
Okay.
And so like I started
exactly
doing
what
all
you're talking
that
about, yeah.
and started getting into that, and that became a big thing. And then we all started figuring out props and such. And I was still just using gloves. Like I could do poi. My buddy Brian and Adam couldn't. They blew me away.
So it's poi then.
It's the two handles with like a leash and then like a weighted end. But usually they have like glow lights in them or something, fire heads, soaking fuel and light on fire.
Yeah.
And so like we usually did glow, and it came around to where I was like, I have gloves. It's not necessarily as fun as what they can see they're doing, and it's not symmetrical. I can't.
And it's not as, I'm guessing, big too. Like those things, since like they're extended away from the body, like it's a much bigger kind of show than just on a glove kind of deal, right?
Yes, and like you're limited when it's your gloves, and like with poi, it's an extension of yourself. Well, then I went to this Boogie Nights event at the caves down in Festus and like the Crystal City Caves. And I see this guy and he's spinning this thing and it's going back and forth and it's on fire, but it's inside the cave down in this like little corner. And like, it's a fire circle and everything. I had never really seen these fire circles. I've been to a couple things, but whatever. And like, he then is like using this rope dart and he's going back and forth. And he's wrapping around himself. And I'm like, whatever that is, I want to do that. I want to do that.
Awesome. Like,
and so my buddy hands me a rope with a hacky sack attached to it and goes, "This is what the central idea is." And I was like,
you just makeshift one?
Yes, 100%. And then I had no idea about doing it. I figured it out, certain stuff. And then I figured out like how to actually do it and used a really thick cord rope. And then I went into another party out in the middle of Pacific, and I met a buddy who I met a long time ago at a festival, and he did rope dart. And I didn't know that he did rope dart so proficiently. And I had just picked up rope dart to the point where I was like figuring things out pretty heftily. And it was just like, okay, I made this. And he shows me all the stuff he built. He built a bracelet, built this rope to it. He built his entire leash, everything. And I was just like, I want to know this. So he taught me all this.
Yeah.
And like, that's still the same bracelet that attaches to me. That way that doesn't slip off.
So like, are a lot of these pieces, like, are they a lot handmade kind of things? Or was it just like, back when you were first learning it, it was like there was no way to just buy this stuff online, so if you wanted to do it,
kind of
a little bit.
It was a little bit of both, because the flow scene was just starting to blow up in 2014. That's whenever I got into the whole thing in 2014. Yeah, 2014, because that's whenever like there were gloves out there, there were lots of props. There were certain pixel poi that were coming out to where you can make your own shapes and pictures and such.
Yeah,
but there wasn't anything like hardcore built. And when rope darters, when going through all these forums and all this different stuff, watching all this crazy stuff go, they complained about all these flow props and glow props being destroyed by rope darters because we were too hard on them. And like, this guy built this prop and he's like, it doesn't break. He used a cotton rope and he used this crazy sealing method where it literally becomes fire retardant. Like, it will not burn. I can take a fire or flame to my rope and I can hold it there and it'll get black and I can move it and I can get the char off and pull off, and still good because of all the grime, the dirt, and then the wax.
Yeah.
He uses a wax sealing style to where he drops it onto it, pulls on it, plays with it for like a week, and then you just tension it. And then it's fire proof because of the wax and the cotton, because cotton is fire resistant up to 7 seconds, up to like 300 degrees.
Yeah.
So using that and that wax.
With the
wax,
combination of the two.
yeah, and it doesn't drip, it doesn't melt, it doesn't break. It sets so hard, it's like a rock. And like that's something that I learned. And like when he taught me that, I was like, this is not really going to happen. I've never had to deal with anything crazy blowing up, falling off, or anything like that. It's been a really interesting setup.
I guess if you're like swinging things around where the end of it is on fire, you want to make sure nothing falls off or
Yes, or flies or
yeah,
or snaps.
or shatters. And
Yes, and that's another thing where people have run into where they're spinning a prop on fire and they'll crash it into the ground, and their head that's not made properly, that because you have to use Kevlar thread to be able to set it completely because it's Kevlar folded over itself.
Uh-huh.
And you use thread to be able to go through it to where it's all flammable.
Yeah.
It's a wick. But when it hits, if it unravels, you have a giant disaster. All that soaking, all that fuel in the middle is now out.
you have a Molotov cocktail
Yeah.
that you just smacked on the ground really hard in front of people.
Yes. And hopefully it's only on the ground and not like, because there's been horror stories about people using them and then it goes, and that firehead just continues on to the crowd. Like,
And when it does finally hit in the middle of a crowd or somebody, it
or
goes,
yeah. Oh man. Or
Yeah.
even if it doesn't break, that's vicious. And so, yeah.
You were doing this locally then? Like, was this just kind of like a hobby thing at first? Or
At first, 100% was just going to shows, having fun, goofing off. And then went to Pacific, Missouri, met these guys, ran into them, and they're like, hey, we're a part of a group that goes and fire performers around here locally. And I was like, what? No way.
You get paid for this? Like,
And so we did it. And we went on these little bits and things, and it was like, okay, this is kind of working out. Oh, this is kind of working out. And then it became, hey, we're going to get sponsored and go do these events because they'd Flux Infernos did the Fire and Ice show down in New Haven, Missouri.
yeah.
And that in the Washington one and a couple others, St. Clair and Gerald. And it was nonsense. Everyone liked it. It was crazy. Everyone couldn't believe it, but it was just,
I mean, that's the thing where like, I mean, a person even like me, where if I'm like a fire performer, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm interested. Like, I'm going to check this out kind of deal. Cause I know even in the past couple of years, I think, O'Fallon, they do a like a Halloween event every year. And we've gone there a couple times to sell some coffee, and they have a fire performer. And of course I'm like, oh, I gotta peek in and check this out. Like the curiosity, I feel like, is just, it's there for people, right? Like, so I could assume like you guys do these events where it's like a planned thing and selling, tickets to it, or even if it's just like we're there alongside whatever event's going on, the curiosity just has to bring people in, right?
Oh yeah. And there's no, you can watch it, whatever you want on television, on your phone, on computer, whatever. But when you see it in person, it's a whole nother experience. And like, that was something that drew people. We used to do it at random spots at this, river cabin. And then it became, someone was like, hey man, you should come out and do it at this party. And then it became, hey, we're hiring you for a festival. And then it became, oh man, you have to show up here. You have to have equipment. You have to have props. You have to have all your gear.
Yep.
These are the times the bands want this, and this. And it became like an actual thing. And like, we were then hired by multiple festivals to go and fire perform for them. And it was pretty crazy.
So was this like a full-time gig for you, or was this like a part-time thing still while this was all going on? Was it a part-time thing that you were doing full-time?
This is a part-time thing I was still doing, but I was being a machine operator at that point in time consistently. And it was during the week. That's what I kept dreaming about, was every weekend I go hang out with my buddies and go spin fire. And then it was just like, all right, we're going to this festival. It's going to be 4 days. We get in a day early. We get to go hang out with everybody, whatever. And it was just like, okay, I'm taking work off. This is the work I want to do. I want to go do this. But
you get paid to be at the festival.
Yep. And your food was taken care of. Like it was pretty crazy. We had passes to go take showers and get drinks and everything else. There was 3 meals served every day. It was on point.
I mean, for when you were, I'm assuming probably early to mid 20s at this point.
Yep.
Like, what else could you want? Like, I'm getting paid to be here. I get to go and actually see these shows that I'm interested in at the same time. Sometimes like part of them, like,
yep. Yeah. Spending for, cause like Astral Valley we went to, and we performed for multiple Cosmic Reunions, the Fam Jam and a couple others. And like fire performer for Beats Antique and a couple others was super cool. Like, because some people didn't want certain stuff and other people really wanted certain stuff.
Yeah.
And then some people didn't want anything. Like Nako and medicine for the people, he didn't want certain stuff at certain times, which is super cool because it's like he wants them to be focused on that. And then at a specific time, he wanted something to be lit on fire, and then that would be their performance.
Yeah.
And it was like he didn't want anything on stage, he wanted everything off stage.
So were these like practice things then? Like, or like, did you guys have like cliff notes that they would be like, all right, when this song hits, you need to.
No. So whenever the band showed up, the people would come and talk to them, and then we would get relayed messages of being like, look, this is what they wanted, this is what they gave us. So they were like, we would know at least a couple hours ahead of time. There was only a couple of people that were like, hey, they're switching this on you right now. You got to get off stage. You got to go over here, go to the boxes.
Yeah.
And like, it was like, oh, okay. Because most of the time, all of our fire stuff has to be off certain stuff because you can't be around sparks and, fire safety. So you keep keep good distance away from a lot of stuff. And people is the other problem with things, because there's a festival. There's tons of people that are out of their minds or running around naked.
Safety is probably a big concern for all of this.
Yes. And so that's how we figure out how to do certain stuff. You spin off bags and make sure that everything can't be tampered with. We'd have someone in a fire safety area. We'd have someone with a wet towel ready to go all the time. There's a wet towel on my stand ready to go. Like we're ready. We're good.
Way more intense than I'm just going to a party and doing this for fun.
And spinning this while I'm just having a good time. Yeah.
Does that does that ever affect you? Like, did you ever go back to parties and you're there and you're like, all right, I can't do this unless I know exactly the set that I need to do this with. Where's my wet towel guy? Like, I need a wet towel guy.
Yes, totally. There's been multiple times where it was like my buddy's like, hey, can we go spin in my backyard? My son wants to go see it. And I was like, yeah. What do we have? And I was like, yeah, I've got a towel. And I'm like, okay, that's all I need. I've got a dip can. I've got all that. Keep it away. Yeah. I think that really has changed me on that, for being like, this has to be like this.
Or like now you watch other things and you can like pick it apart. You're like, whether it's the things they're performing or the way they're set up or the safety measures they have or things like that, where you're watching it and you're just like, these guys are doing it all wrong.
Yes. Or like my dad showed me this short little video and he goes, I was at this event and this guy came up and started spinning these props, and I'm looking at him and I'm looking through my phone. I'm like, it's real grainy. I think I know that person. It looks like this person XYZ. And then sure enough, I get to it and he shows me on his iPad and it's sure enough like that. And I'm like, yeah, that's O'Hare. Yeah. Yeah. I can't believe. Yeah. And it's like, he's sitting there doing the same stuff that he's doing, but then he's doing alternate stuff. Cause like when it comes to poi and certain people, they go really techie.
Yeah.
As a rope darter, I'm more of like streamline. It's very technical, but it's very pronounced in certain ways. There's almost stuff like off mind, like almost like a glitch hop kind of style of mentality when you come to spinning props, to where it's more of like meeting your mind's optical illusion compared to watching something that's really pretty and everything.
Yeah.
And like that's something that I consistently see through a lot of people, that they want to be more techie than be flowy. And seeing on something like that, you can, I guess I'm an experienced flow prop.
Yeah. You've watched enough of this. You've done it enough yourself.
Yeah. And like there's stuff where it's like, I know that they are messing up, but to everybody else, it looks totally fine. And like, I've seen videos of me and I'm like, that's a mess up. That's a mess up. That's a mess up. And they're like, that looks great. And I'm like,
yeah. And ironically, this has been like a ongoing thing that we talk about. Even, so Jordan, a musician we had on earlier too, he was talking about his performances. And he's like, I'll do these performances. And I'm like, I screwed up here. And I'm like, I've been to some of those. Like, you've done them here at the cafe. I'm like, I don't hear anything. And he's like, no, but I know. And I'm like, is that how you are too? Like, where a crowd would never even notice it. And you're just like, at the end of it, you're like, oh man, like I should have done this differently, or like I screwed up this piece of this. And like,
yes. Oh, 100%. Because it's like when I light my prop on fire, I always joke about this at paintball. Everyone has a plan. 3, 2, 1, go. The plan's out the door. Everyone's scrambling, trying not to die. And like, I know what I'm doing. I'm getting ready to do it. I light my prop and I'm just flowing. I forget about what I'm supposed to do and what I messed up last time. And then I'll go back through and I do a specific like stall kick kind of thing.
Yeah.
And when I do that, I notice every time that I do a certain stall in a certain fashion and it looks super suave. Well, it's super wrong. And like, that's what I realized, that my body eventually turned and was doing it opposite and then was doing it like this. And it was just like, no, but on camera, it looks super suave. And it's just like, so I know it's wrong.
Yeah.
Do I go back and correct it to where it looks more techie, or am I just going to just leave it be? And it's like, I finally figured out how to kind of alter it a little bit last October when I was spinning, and it was just like
meeting in the middle kind of deal. Is it like,
yes. Cause it's like, I'm not as agile as I used to be. I'm 35. I'm not 27.
Yeah.
And it's come to a point where I'm like, oh, that doesn't move. Oh, okay. All right. And then like, because my buddy Matt, he likes to record and put it on there because he doesn't get to spin very often, and this is like a big event for him. For every October, we go and spin an extreme every Friday and Saturday, and it's super just fun.
Yeah.
And man, he goes and records all of it, and I'm just sitting there and I'm looking at it, and I'm just like, that's wrong, that's wrong. Oh, that looks so bad. I'm not paying attention. Oh, that's not. And he's like, dude, that looks fine. And then and he's like, yeah, so I screwed that up and I screwed it up. And I'm like, I can see that, but in the same sense, it's so smooth. It's kind of just
Yeah.
like,
You watch some, if it was me watching it, I wouldn't notice it at all kind of deal. Right.
yeah, because it's super minute, but to if
Yep.
it's like, and it
So-
reminds me so much.
How long were you doing this for, performing?
2014 to 2017. I think my last festival I went to was Cosmic Reunion 2017, and that was the last time I fire performed there. I think I tried to do.
I see you looking over there. Is this when you met your wife? Right at the end of this?
Oh, actually, I was with her at that Cosmic Reunion, and so it was kind of like, I think that's the last festival I went to.
Yeah.
And then we went to the Ice Carnival that we used to do for Flux Inferno, and that's when I was talking to her a long time ago. I was like, I've lost the spirit. I'm totally in a different life period. I want to be with this girl instead of trying to be in the fire performance scene and all this.
Yeah.
And like eventually, I just kind of was walking away from it because for how much I want to do it, and there was a lot of drama that originally happened in the very beginning of everything, and like the group kind of split, and then it split further.
Yeah.
And so it became a point where it was kind of like, I really want to be a part of this, but I live all the way in Illinois, and they all live in Gerald, Missouri.
And it's so different than, I'm assuming, when you started years ago. Different people, different way the festivals are done.
Yeah, everything. And so it was to a point where I was like, yeah, I want to slow. I've been trying to slow down my life and wanted to settle down with a woman, and like I finally found the right woman, and it became this point of being like, oh, I'm going to go to all these festivals. And I was like, I don't really need to be going to all these festivals. I don't really need to be going to all these shows either. I used to go to a bunch of shows at 2720 and everything, Stadium.
Yeah.
Fire perform there. And like now,
it's exhausting as you get older. You're like, wait, how long does this go for? What time? Okay, I mean, I'm good till about 9:30, 10 o'clock.
And see, that's what fire performing in extreme does. Like we're there at 6, set up, ready to go at 7, and then sometimes it goes to midnight. And it's like I hit this point where like 11 o'clock, I'm like, are we still spinning? He's like, yeah, there's still people waiting in line. It's like, I am so not ready for this.
Yeah.
I don't have the endurance for this anymore.
Yeah, I'm going on my early 30s now. Like,
yeah,
this is
this is a chore now.
Yeah,
as my buddy always jokes about. He's like, there's no better thing than sleep. There's coffee and sleep, because coffee gets you away from sleep, but then it gets you closer to sleep later. And I'm yeah, go to bed, and then you wake up because as an adult, I've got a 5-month-old, and so sleep is imperative when it comes to anything. And
sleep is coffee, right?
Yes.
You need it. You're hoping your baby has it, and
yes. And as long as the baby's sleeping and you can enjoy the coffee, it should be okay.
So,
but
So then from there, I know when we first met here at the coffee shop, you were in like the CBD THC business. Is that like, did you immediately make that jump from like fire performing, or was there like a whole bunch of like tiny steps in between?
So
like
a long time.
My question is, how do you get to that stage?
Lighting things on fire. Unfortunately.
Oh, I guess lighting things on fire.
Well, yeah. So a buddy of mine a long time ago talked to me about how to extract, and I learned certain methods of butane extraction before anything was legal and whatever else. But like, it was just doing it at home, screwing around, having fun, figuring things out. Lit my kitchen on fire. After that, I learned so many different things about chemistry when it came to oils, gases, and igniters.
Yeah.
So like using a cleanser, using grain alcohol was something I used a long time ago. The first infused thing I made was outrageous, and it was a birthday cake that was totally just random things thrown together, put into it, and it was supposed to make it work. And it was outrageous. But like eventually I started making honey, and like that was something that I really enjoyed. I didn't understand, but then I met a farmer who really, really is enthusiastic about honey, and I started getting into it, and I started finding all these different places of honey, and I started doing these RSO things where you decarb, take your things, you decarb it, you put it into the freezer with alcohol, and then you steep it off and you extract it. And like that,
so you
was
get into some sciencey stuff right here, though.
Oh yes, a lot. And then figuring out certain oils for them to bind to, and then like that's where I started going to. So like sugar shouldn't be able to.
Now is this THC, CBD stuff?
Oh, this is all THC before everything was proper.
Yeah.
And this is in my house, and I'm doing all these batches, and I would take them to places and have people sample, and I'd eat them. And eventually we came to a point where it was like, a buddy of mine came to me, because I bought a bunch of his wine, and my fire performing buddies were like, "There's wine." I'm like, "Yeah, there is. We should go get it," because this is my buddy from high school that my brother knew,
Yeah.
and so it was kind of like that random moment of being like, "Hey, so like I do this for a living, and you make things," and I was like, "Yeah, you make things too." He's like, "Yeah, I've run into a problem. I'm trying to figure out X and Y to try and make, like this private batch." And I was like, "Oh, I deal with honey. I think we can make a meme like that." And it became this, "Hey, do you want a job? Do you want to be able to do something?" And I was like, I don't know. I've never really thought about doing something like this. And then it kind of just,
so like just start. So you said he was a wine guy that was playing around
with wine, but he was making salves at that point.
Okay.
And so he had built 2 salves for himself because no other company could make something. His skin wasn't hydrating. So he knew enough about, I guess, horticulture and essential oil styles where he was like, "Oh, this will make it proper." And so he built it for himself.
Yeah.
He started using it and other people started liking it. And that's how he got into it. And then we were trying to figure out how to order CBD because that's when I got pulled into it. And it was just like, okay, all right, how are we going to do this? Where are we going to get it from? Because this was back like right as it got not worried about in 2017, 2018, where everyone was like, CBD's fine across everywhere.
Is that when like the CBD craze kind of really started to blow up? Because I don't remember exactly when it happened, but I remember it happening. Like all of a sudden, like CBD was that was everywhere. You turn on the news and it was talking about CBD. You'd go on Facebook and everyone's talking about CBD. Like
down to paintballers making water CBD.
Yes. So
and so like 2015 to 2017, I think is when that blow up was. That's when I met my wife, and that's when I was really starting to pay attention to it. Because that's when I was starting to get into it.
Yeah.
And then we were starting to order these. Ordering CBD a long time ago was very funky. There was points where it was totally, completely fine, safe. People tested it. And there was other stuff where it was companies that they didn't exactly know what they were doing or something, because people were eventually like finding out that this and that were hot and like you couldn't, absorb
they're
this.
They're not coming from the proper.
Yeah. Or they weren't stripped properly, which means that they are not an isolate. They're an isolate with other fats attached to it. So that means that there's THC attached to CBD.
Okay.
And apparently there was a huge Wild West moment where there was only 0.003%, and that didn't really happen. It was just kind of like
nobody was actually testing it. It was like, this is what it's supposed to be, but
no one could really say that it really was.
Yeah.
So they were just kind of, And so like, that's when 2018 happened and everyone started cracking down on it. That's we ordered through a different company, and that one company was like, "Hey, we've missed your business." And it was like, "You're charging us 5 times the amount for something that unfortunately I don't think is very good, but we'll humor you."
Yeah.
And we ordered it again. It was not very good. And we're like, "Okay, we can't do this anymore." And like, we then went to another company. This company would, instead of charging almost like $4 to $5 for a gram of CBD isolate, was down in the dollar range. And it was just like, this, how? And he talked to us about it. He described certain stuff, and it was just like, okay, all right, I'm hearing this. And from then we started building all these crazy parts and salves. And like he had the 3 salves built on, and then it became figuring out what is really going to affect his body. And that's when he started figuring out how to really hydrate his skin. And that's whenever figuring out the whole MCT thing.
So you were explaining these salves to me. You guys started with like the 3 basic ones, right?
Started with the body butter.
So body butter, which is just like your like top, like
a moisturizer.
Is that what that is? Like your top skin coat of like moisturizing just that top skin coat.
Yes,
correct?
with
like,
no essential oils. It's truly hydrating.
Yeah.
And then
is this for like dry skin, eczema, things like that, or
everything down to if you had a dry spot on your knuckle or on the back of your we'll go to the plumber, the back of his knee, because it rubs against everything because he's always pushing himself like this. And he talked about how that helped him. And I was like, really? He goes, yeah, nothing else works. I drink all the water I can. I drink filtered water. I try and apply this and that. And then I look at the stuff and like, that's something I've found in my life. I've tried really hard to stay away from a lot of chemicals. Chemicals are in everything. I get it.
Yeah.
But whenever you figure out a chemical that really bothers you and you see what it does, and it's in almost everything, like disodium EDTA, that's something that is a cheap, quick thing for people to have because it's a chemical that can break through the skin. You can achieve certain other things with doing it in a much organic version of it. And it blows my mind. But once again, it's all about people and their money and what they want to do. And so like, he just figured out how to do this organically. And he started figuring out all these different samples of essential oils. And that's whenever he started figuring out
the salves, which you said, so there was the original one, which was the top coat. There's a second one.
Yep. Which is the chill blue.
Chill Blue. Yeah. So what is that? Does that have something added in it, like an icy hot effect? Or because like
Yes.
you hear Chill Blue and you think, is that like a natural kind of icy hot effect?
Yes.
Like,
It's wintergreen, or lang lang, German chamomile, and
this is another one in there.
there's another one.
You'll remember it.
But yeah, and as well the arnica extract of all of that.
Yeah.
Because that whole thing is so anti-inflammatory, no one really understands. And it's, they're all different pieces. And when you put all those pieces together, they stack on each other. And that affects so much more than what most people think.
Yeah.
Because like when you're going through your skin, EDTA is absorbing every oil that is in the air.
Yeah.
Coffee, everything. And so whenever you're using an MCT, it passes through your skin and it's proper. But that's using certain ones.
So is that second level one then? Like, is that for like red spots and things like that on your skin too? Like, will that help like things like rashes or anything like
rashes,
that?
bumps, cysts, any of that, because it will absorb into it and it really does relax and alter it. It really does. I don't want to say hydrate, but it really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's of course it's going to do the same thing that the first one does.
Yes.
Lots more, right?
Yes, so much more. Yes. And it also relaxes it to a point where the wintergreen really does add this like bio-freeze kind of icy hot effect.
Yeah.
But there's no actual cayenne. That's why the third one, the deep relief, is so
deep relief. I think that's the one that you gave me some samples of that because I was telling you that like my lower back was like real sore, and that one has even more in it. Is that one that's got some THC in it as well?
It's got no, but what it has has the cayenne in it.
Okay.
And the cayenne mixed with the CBD itself or the D8, because that's the one I gave you, is that D8.
Yeah.
That is a whole nother thing. Because like mixing all of those essential oils, stacking the CBD on D8, or even just CBD by itself, it penetrates and then the cayenne warms up everything, but it's natural. So it's like, instead of feeling like this coating over your skin, as it's absorbing through your skin, you start to really feel the relaxation run through you. You feel the tension, the damage, everything kind of starting to alleviate. I've got paintballers that'll slap it on their tight knees. Nanner's one of the guys. He literally told me that it took 50% of his pain away instantly. Like he started slathering on and here, and like that was the same one I gave you. And that's why I was just like, I want people to hear me. Like I don't know what it really does to everybody, but you know what? I've done enough chemistry. I know enough about essential oils. I know enough about this product. I know what it can do to people. I know what it did for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had people tell me the Chill Blue was, got rid of 2 cysts. One person had underneath his arm and he was applying it and it eventually disappeared. I too had someone do the same kind of thing, had on their leg and it disappeared. And it's just like,
dang, the stuff like you, when you make it, of course, in your brain, you're probably thinking like, this is how these things are supposed to work, but you never know until it happens.
yes.
And then hearing stories like that, you're like, wow, yep, this is exactly like, it's kind of like that moment of like relief and like everything like that, of like excitement of like, it's doing what it's supposed to do and other people are noticing it, not just me. Like,
yes. Otherwise, there's a trial and error thing where the blue or the German chamomile was not blue. It's supposed to be blue.
Yeah.
And it was almost green. And it was just like, and added different smell, added different flavor. Like not flavor, eating. It was a completely different smell and it added a completely different effect to it. It wasn't nearly as strong. And like, that's what we had going through. Was we've been through like 4 or 5 different companies trying not to be upset with them, but being like, well, this doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. And then other people are like, oh, we're so sorry. Please forgive us. And it was just kind of like,
So it started with the sad. Were you making some other like edibles, things like that on the side, or is this something that you added in?
I mean, I was doing it on the side.
I mean, not on the side as in for the business, not on the side for personal.
Yes. Yeah. So we were making certain treats back and forth of like topicals. And then it became, well, what else can we do? And like me and my wife do a lot of old fashioned recipes.
Yeah.
That was something we started figuring out. And like, okay, well, let's see what this does. And we found out that as long as it's made and where we're making it, it's fine.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, let's just do it. Let's start doing it.
Well, it's because, I mean, especially in the, like, as soon as like the 2020s hit and like legalization, I'm assuming really opened up and like, I think like things became a lot more relaxed on that end, right? Like, was there less scrutiny on the CBD side of things? And then there was more like the THC was legal, but there was like,
oh, there's so much more red tape with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like people hear D8 and that's one thing. They're like, oh, okay. All right. But then they hear the like THC 9 or D9.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, but CBD, that's something that everyone seems to just be able to be relaxed on. People are making beer with it now. It's all a very strange experience.
Yeah.
I mean, down to people wanting to make my always thought was broth. Like make a broth that has CBD in it to where you could make it into a roux or whatever you wanted and everything. It would just be a little bit of light and that'd be perfect. But I mean, once again, I don't know many people are going to be like hopping on these certain stuff. But
so were you doing more than just like, I mean, I think when you think of the typical things, you always think of like desserts and candies, right? Like, are you going beyond that? Are you breaking into,
I've always joked.
You said broths, like what else?
I mean, so anything that has like an oil in it, you could do hot sauces, anything. I've always thought about doing bread.
Yeah.
Like making a sandwich or something like that. And then a buddy of mine brought up this past weekend about doing deer sausage. And I was like, I never thought about doing deer sausage like that. That's a very strange thought, but that's a great idea. That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
But once again, I don't process deer and everything, but doing hot sauces. Me and a farmer were talking about it and we just tried a little sample batch and it worked out pretty well for it just being a hot sauce. Like almost theory shouldn't work like that, but knowing the capsaicins and oil and mixing in a CBD isolate with it, or even like a THC isolate and like an MCT with it, it'll always blend because as long as those oils are absorbing.
So will you explain, I guess, as we're talking about these things, because I hear these terminology thrown around a lot, especially on the THC side of things, D8, D9, like because you seem to know the science behind these things mostly, right?
Mostly, yeah. For
like what is the difference in these things? What's like your regular standard THC versus your D8 versus your D9? Are they all the same? Are they different?
So they're pretty close, is what I can say. Is like because D9 is a THC that is an activated or extracted version. Concentrates and waxes and all that is usually D9.
Okay.
But then there's like THCA, which I think is just a warmed up version at a certain temperature after a certain time. Because D8 is over 300 degrees over an hour and 20 minutes. And that's when it starts from D9 and it inerts itself to D8.
So it all starts as basically the same product?
It all starts hemp, which is the funny part.
Yeah. And then when they take that, it depending on how you isolate and
stress the plant out is the best way I can describe that, because most of it, like even if you grow just a regular pot plant and it has THC in it, you still could do something to where you decarb it at 300 for an hour and 10 minutes.
What do you mean decarb it?
Baking it in a dish after it's broken up.
Okay.
So like most people put it into a mason jar. Some people put it into a Pyrex. Other people use this whole elaborate system where it's underneath like with a water pan underneath and where it's vaping it at a certain degree. I mean, there's multiple different methods of what you can do.
Yeah.
But baking it at 300 degrees in a pan and then letting it go usually for about an hour makes it to be active. Euclid. But 300 is a very interesting temperature because at a certain point, it will take that after 120 minutes. I don't know why it's even that, but it is. It is. Because I figured this out on a just whim.
Yeah.
That's whenever it inerts because I had regular flour.
And when you say inerts, that means?
As in there is a molecule that destroys itself, and for it to destroy itself, it then recreates itself as actual D8. So it loses the hardcore THC-ness, the fuzziness of like getting high, because 8 is more about euphoria, because that's like the feeling of getting high is just the head feeling. Well, 8 is
the
more
emotional state or something like that.
Yeah, like almost like drinking a beer, where it kind of fractures the mind a little bit.
Yeah.
It breaks the edge, but yet people have gone way too far on it. And that's like the whole thing is like, just like 9, 8, anything else, you can go too far. But with 8, if you're just ingesting a little bit of it, you really do become euphoric instead of going over the hump.
Yeah.
But once again, it's like alcohol. You do too much.
There's too much of any good thing. If I eat too many cookies, I'm going to feel terrible. Like if I have too much coffee, I'm going to be sweating and jittery. Like you overdo anything easily kind of deal.
Yeah.
So then is this, I know you, like I said, we were originally met, you were working with Inner Alchemy. Are you still there? Are you doing some like solo stuff? Are you allowed to talk about things that you're doing? Like,
I can't necessarily talk about 100%. I've been trying to figure out more about what I'm going to be doing in my life. And that's where I'm getting stuck. Like I'm trying to figure out what I need to do, how I need to do it. And this is all like what I want to do. But I know that's not fully paying everything I need to do right now. So I'm going to have to try and figure out how to juggle everything.
Like, are you
And
staying in like the THC business? Are you
oh,
trying to?
so I still want to be a part of the sad business. I'm still wanting
Yeah,
this whole idea to be able to make treats. I just got to figure out how to be able to do it. But
yeah.
I don't know. I really kind of want to stay in it, but I also, like I said, I got to be realistic about what I'm trying to do, and I got to figure out.
You got a baby now. You
I
got
know, and I can't screw around with it, and I feel so bad about trying to do certain stuff and live this wonderful dream while it's all like
it's hard
ugh.
because now you're like, now it's just not me. Now it's just not me and my wife. Now like there's another, like we got to take care of.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the struggle of being a father. I don't even want to say like being a man, but being a father in this aspect of trying to support your dream, and really care about what you want, and then having a child on
Yeah.
the side. And it's
Because
like,
there's risks you would take if it was just you.
yes,
But now there's an added factor, and you're like, I can't take this risk
Yep.
if there's somebody else relying on me.
Yeah,
There's two people relying on me. Like if I screw up, it's not just, oh, I'm on the street for a little bit till I bounce back. Now it's weird, like everything.
yeah.
So
So it's like I got to make sure that I'm going to do this right. I got to make sure that this is
Yeah.
really where I'm going to go and what I got to focus on.
because I mean, it seems like there's a lot of passion behind the science and chemistry behind all this stuff. Of like, seems like you really enjoy kind of like almost the lab side of things and like the creation side of things of like the baking recipes and figuring all that out. So, I mean, I'm interested to see where that takes you because, like, I guess we didn't even get it at high school. Like, was there any college science background or anything, or is this all self-taught? Like, were you like?
I'll hear you. I went to my career was machining. My
Yeah.
dad was a teacher for Rankin, and like I skipped out of chemistry because it was required by Belleville East as a class. And I was like, I'm going into metallurgy. There's no point for this. They were like, oh, okay. And so no, I'm completely self-taught. After lighting my house on fire and me a couple times,
Yeah.
not really on fire. I put it out. The house
Yeah.
didn't burn. But yeah, like things I learned after destroying certain stuff and then figuring out certain things like you should definitely be using a crock pot, as I will definitely say that my wife saved me on that one
But
multiple
like
times.
the way that you talk about it, I mean, it sounds, like a chemist in a way. And it's like, it seems like things that not the ordinary person just would like gloss over. And I'm sure some people listening to this, I'm like, I'm gonna have to cut in and kind of explain some of these terms and everything for everybody because it's very scientific and kind of deep dive right into that. So, I mean, I feel like once you learn that, it's something that you kind of want to stick with, right? Like,
Yes. Yeah. And like that's where I'm at. It's the same with the whole baking thing. Like I like good food. I like real food. And that's another whole thing I want to try and eventually cross over.
Yeah.
But just figuring out how you can do that and, different laws and everything else that goes with it. Cause there's a lot of red tape when it comes to anything besides CBD and D8.
Yeah. So, and then staying local then? Plans to be around here locally?
Yes. Yeah. I want to live in Belleville. I want to live at least somewhere close to here in this downtown area.
Yeah.
Like I know it's crazy here, but then again, I'm in the same boat. My wife and I used to ride bikes to, all the way to 101st Street. And like, I never really got bothered. I know I hear horror stories. I got a buddy that lives off of 5th or off 17th or 15th or whatever. And he tells me terrible things, but I'm like, in the same sense, I think this is a great place. It's a hometown. I've lived here all my life.
Yeah.
And like, I want to be close to my family. This is where my family's from. Like my brother's has his wife or girlfriend pregnant now. So like I'm hoping move back here. Oh,
yeah.
But yeah,
you're trying to convince everybody to come back.
Yeah. I mean, my wife's family lives all here. Like we're all interconnected. We're all in this like little, I guess, 15-mile radius thing. And so it's like, I want to be, I'm a hometown kid and I want to be here. I want to be able to show that Belleville isn't just another place on the map. It's just it's a nice place to go. It's a nice place to live. I got lots of good memories. Everything's crazy. But the point is that like, I want to be here. So I want to try to find a place in downtown and find some place where I can ride my bike to the parks downtown at least. Cause that was the thing. See, I used to live off of, and near night moves and such. And like, that was really nice being able to get down here, down to the,
you got the trail that's right. Like you take McKinley and go a couple blocks. You can hop right on the trail and take the Metrolink trail all the way to Fairview Heights or all the way out in the cornfields. So,
all the way to Eckert's. And
yeah.
Such. And so it's like, that's super cool. I'm like, I don't see that in many other places. I see a lot in like Florida and other places. Edwardsville is still kind of like that, but I feel it's too metropolis. This is still
cost of living is very much higher. Like, especially you go to Florida to those kind of places, or even just, some of these other places like Edwardsville and O'Fallon and things like that. Like cost of living's up there.
Shiloh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but No, I mean, I'm excited. Want to follow back and see. Of course, you're going to be in here all the time, but anyone listening, I would definitely recommend. I mean, so anything you want to shout out? Anything you want to talk about? Anything, where people can find you if people are more interested in like, what you're currently doing, about finding out about, the SABs, the THC CBD products, fire performance, things like that, paintballing.
Oh man, yeah. Well, if you want to go to any good paintball place, Extreme Paintball Park in Millstadt is phenomenal.
Yeah.
They update their fields, everything. It's pretty good. We have a new turf field on the front airball. It's phenomenal. Everyone seems to really like it. Everyone's there early. Oh. But yeah, inneralchemy.shop. That's where our website is.
Yeah.
And it's got a lot of different packages and deals and everything on it right now. It's all local. The owner is from Belleville. He lives now in Dogtown. Everything will get to you within 24 hours. It's super nice. Like it's pretty interesting to know that someone from here, from Belleville, made something so organic, and yet same kind of thing with the paintball. Like, it's so big, so blown up. Everyone knows someone, which is a funny thing. And it's just like everyone's so interconnected with just trying to have a good time and figure that whole thing out. That's why I like, humor me. Come out and play paintball on the weekend. Come see stuff. Come goof off.
Yeah.
Go look at the websites. Whatever you want to do. But
so Tyler Ely, right?
Yes.
So if you go into the paintball shop, just start asking for him. Like, but don't show up early, because he seems like that is something he's not looking for.
Oh, I mean, with a kid, I live so not far away, but like I live further away, and it's hard with a kid. I want to sleep in.
Yeah. Oh no, I get it. We open at 7 a.m. and sometimes there's people trying the doors at 6:45 in the morning. I'm like, we're still taking the chairs down. Give me a minute.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, but no, Tyler, thank you so much. It was super awesome. Like, I knew bits and pieces of your, background story, but hearing the whole thing, it's exciting. Appreciate you coming on and doing this with me, and we'll keep an eye out for things that you've got planned in the future, because I feel like there's some things in the works that maybe aren't just ready to be public just yet, but are coming down the line. So, but appreciate it very much. Thanks, Tyler.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. Thank you.